Good morning, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Foul Playland. And I wanted to make this video, which I'm going to try to make a longer video. And this is regarding the selectivism, if you will, of the cancel culture. But also, it's going to be a somewhat show review or a 2 episode review of a show that I just started watching called Allen versus Farrow. And it's about the background and the case of Woody Allen versus Mia Farrow that happened in the early '90s. And I'll get to that first. I want to give my thoughts as to the overall view of the show and I guess my what my feelings are on the whole thing. And then I want to get into more of a pick and choose aspect that happens with the cancel culture, especially with when it comes to the major media, in which they pick their targets as to who they want to cancel and what stories that you should be knowing and which stories you never hear about. And I'm gonna give a more recent case too, as far as in the sports world, because I'm also interested in the sports world, and I just found out about a story yesterday that happened 2 weeks ago in the sports world, and it was actually with a player from the team that I follow, the New York Giants, which I just found out yesterday, and it was a terrible story with loads of proof, and it's just another instance of who they pick and choose, like with the cancel culture. But and I'm gonna do a separate video for these two probably because I have so much to say about it. But as far as the show Allen versus Farrell, and I hope I'm saying the name correctly, but it's about, like I said, the film director, legendary film director Woody Allen. I never watched many of Woody Allen's movies. I know he does have a lot of acclaim, and he was at one point married and long-term dating Mia Farrow. Mia Farrow, before meeting him, had a few kids of her own, in addition to kids that she adopted. In total, I think she had, upon meeting him, 6 or 7 kids. But she had one kid that she adopted while she was with him. And then she was pregnant while she was with him, which is kind of like weird too, because I don't know, like they didn't really allude to whether it was her that got her pregnant, even though they were together or married or whatever have you. And that's the last kid. I think his name was Ronan Farrow, because he's a contributor for I think the New York Times or the New Yorker magazine here in New York. But what happened was that prior to meeting, like I said, she had all these kids, and then he was while she was with them, she adopted their second youngest kid, as it pertains to this documentary. I think she adopted kids after that, but I'm just focusing on the ones that he encountered. Apparently, according to the documentary, like he was like way touchy feely with the kid, the second oldest kid that they adopted together, which was a girl. He was honed in on her. He gave her way too much attention. According to the people in the documentary that were around her at the time, um, and they actually have that kid within this documentary, and she's blowing up his spot. Like you're saying that he was inappropriate with her, that he was like pretty much sexually abusing her. And I mean, I don't want to gloss over that, but because I want to get to the crux of this video. But I don't care if this is a spoiler. I mean, because we should all have known about this story, because it should have been bigger news. It should have been something that they keep going back to, like they do with R. Kelly or Michael Jackson. Like every time they mention like R. Kelly, it's always with the fact that he abused um, a kid. You know, in the at like right after they mention him, But Woody Allen, they always mention him as he's this brilliant director, um, with never an allegation of the fact that he's also abused kids. But also in the documentary, the Mia Farrow had adopted one kid um, when she was already like 6 years old, and that kid was always like older than the rest of all the kids. Like she was like 17 when her young or 16 like when her youngest kid was born. No, probably a little older. Like so when her youngest kid that she gave birth to was probably like 2, she was probably like 16 then. So anyways, and I think that other kid that she adopted who was older than the rest of the kids, her name was Su Yi. So she in addition to abusing the youngest kid, um, she, Mia Farrow ended up going to Woody Allen's apartment while they were still together, and she found a bunch of inappropriate pictures of the oldest kid, Su Yi, who was like from Korea, um, like on his drawer or whatever, like a bunch of Polaroid pictures of her in very inappropriate positions. According to her, it was like something that you wouldn't put in Playboy, but something that you would put more in Penthouse, which is a little bit, which is I mean a lot worse than what you would see in Playboy. Um, she she confronted Woody Allen about this girl, and I guess they came to some sort of impasse or to a resolution that wasn't going to happen again. Fast forward a couple months later, and he's like involved with that same girl, like they're dating, if you will, or he's like basically like boning her. And now like that girl's like 50 years old, and Woody Allen is still like married to her. Um, so I mean like that. I mean, there's still like I guess several episodes to go, and you can watch the show yourself if you want. But what I'm and this goes like to my whole like tirade as far as the cancel culture goes. When like how I've all celebrities that I've heard of any story like to do with them as far as controversy or bad stories. This is probably one of the worst ones I've heard, and I know like sort of like topically that Woody Allen was married to that girl Su Yi, and I knew that that girl Su Yi was at some point his adopted daughter. But maybe I should have honed in on that my own. But I guess me being guided like most people by like the media, um, when I would hear about it like back in the day or even recently or like I mean or maybe like wasn't really covered like that. So you tend to not give it like too much relevance. Like you tend to like think, oh well, if they're not covering it, maybe it's not that big of a deal, or maybe you know this happened some other way. But literally, like he was with the girl, like while he was still with Mia Farrow, and Mia Farrow's a dumbass too, for letting all this stuff happen, and it's not you get the gist in the documentary that it didn't just happen by surprise, or it wouldn't happen to no kid that's around me. I'll tell you that much. You know, and I don't say that in hindsight. Like it wouldn't happen. Like no adult gets close to any kid that's around me. Period. Like that. And that's also like nieces and nephews. Like not just my son. But what what bothers me most is that um the fact that the media never really honed in on Woody Allen like that. I mean, he was able to have a fruitful career um, for decades after that happened. That came out like in '91, let's say, and we're now 30 years later. The girl that he abused, that Su Yi girl, is now 50 years old. Like, give me a break, and he's still with her. You know, but So it pisses me off that, like, they pick and choose. Like, why is it that Woody Allen, like, sort of got a pass and was able to still make movies and whatnot, um, when other people, like, got quote unquote canceled for far less. Like, even nowadays, like, I mean, and like, some people are gonna say, well, now, like, they're making this documentary about him, so that's like his form of being canceled because now, like, he's not gonna make movies anymore. But if you think about it, Woody Allen's 85 years old right now. So I mean, he probably doesn't have a movie left in him. Like, his creative juices is probably like dried up. Like, he's already made bread. Like, he's probably a 100 millionaire a couple times over already. So I mean, what does he care if you guys cancel him so late in the game? I mean, he already did his thing. He already set a standard as to who should get away with certain things, like, and it's definitely not no black dudes. Like, but it pisses me off. And I mean that, like, the problem with these things too, like, and it's not just cancel culture. It's like a little bit of a reliance on the media as to what you should get pissed off at and what what's the worst that happened in certain situations is that, like, you would think that because they're covering something that they're telling you every single thing, and, like, that's not the case. I'm pretty sure that this instant with Woody Allen was far worse than what they're painting it out to be. And another case that's similar to that, in which you think that you're getting some media coverage of a story that's horrible, so that they're telling you everything about it, is the Jeffrey Epstein, like, special that happened on Netflix, which I don't know the name of that, but they're making it seem that Jeffrey Epstein, a guy who's clearly a sadist and a piece of shit, a sexual deviant, um, was, with all his millions or billions, just bringing girls, like, in his company to get massages and the occasional bone. And I know that's not what happened. I know that Epstein was probably, like, servicing, like, people who were super wealthy, or having girls servicing people that were super wealthy, and tons more terrible things. They make it seem like in that documentary that Epstein probably abused like 10 girls. Like, there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of girls that Epstein, with all his money and power, um, had within his, like, cipher, and who knows where they're at now? Like, are those girls off? Or um, I sometimes think that maybe they brought the girls that talked about Epstein and, like, that mentioned the fact that he got massages from them and, like, coerced them into having sex with them, even though some of them were teenagers, and that's terrible. Yeah, but I think, like, maybe the ones that they bring forward in these cases, it's not that I think, I know that what happens in a lot of these cases is that they bring the ones forward that are willing not to really say much, or they probably tell them, like, listen, like, we'll cover, we don't want you to go in this hard. So then people think, like, oh, well, Jeffrey Epstein, like, his business is out there now because the media, these people that are doing this story, of course, are going to tell us all these bad things because they're already telling us some of the bad things that are happening. So they're telling us everything that happened. Like, meanwhile, like, you got this elusive figure, like, with tons of money behind them. Nobody really knows how he even acquired that money in the first place, the level of money that he had, like, to the point where he's buying islands and private planes, and you know so like, then they're giving you, like, a little bit of the story, and or a little bone to chew on, and then people, like, kind of forget about it because who's talking about Jeffrey Epstein today, or, like, why don't people, like, talk about who Jeffrey Epstein may have been tied into, or try to find more leads, like, try to find more people that were abused. Like, maybe they could give us a little bit more um insight as to maybe who was involved or financing Epstein, if you will. But that's stuff that just pisses me off. And, like, if you're gonna have a quote unquote cancel culture, which is gonna be used largely for political means, or to give coverage to some people, like coverage, and I consider what Woody Allen got as far as his treatment by the media coverage. I mean, they should have been hanging Woody Allen in my eyes in the media. But what you did get is for Woody Allen to have the ability to continue to make movies. I'm pretty sure he was abusing other like young women, um, or little girls or kids. You know, after getting a pass, um, and that's how this stuff goes like in entertainment. You know, and right now like we're in the midst of like the most coverage that like cancel culture is getting as it relates to race issues. And like another story that I just found out about was the fact that Chad Wheeler, a lineman for the New York Giants, and I actually liked his play when he was on the New York Giants. I thought they should have benched. I know he like damn, that was his name, Eric Flowers, in favor of Chad Wheeler on the offensive line. I liked how Chad Wheeler played at camp. So it's not like that I'm like just I'm freestyling. I don't have notes, so it's not like I'm not in tune with what happens with the New York Giants because I'm a New York Giant fan, in addition to being a New York Jet fan. But there's a story that just came out 2 weeks ago that Chad Wheeler, um, his girlfriend called the cops on him because he literally like beat the shit out of her, like and knocked choked her out unconscious 2 times. Um, she had to get surgery for a dislocated elbow. Like she has a metal plate on her shoulder. That's gonna be there permanently. And the reason that he did that, according to her, was that because he didn't bow to her. And when they asked him for a comment initially, well, actually, before I even get to that, Chad Wheeler's a white guy, and his girlfriend is a black lady. When they asked Chad Wheeler if he did that, he said that no, he ain't do that because I don't beat women. But supposedly the reason behind him doing that was because his girlfriend didn't bow to him. Um, so here you have a white guy, just covering it generally, um, that has a black girlfriend who didn't bow to him. He beats the shit out of his girlfriend, um, chokes her out unconscious, back to back twice, where she had to come back to life pretty much. There's pictures of it. In the pictures that I saw of it, her nose is completely busted. She has blood all over her face. You look at her neck, and there's fingerprints in blood of somebody's hands. They're like big hands. This happened 2 weeks ago, mind you. How does this get no coverage? Is beyond me because Chad Wheeler at that time was actively still playing. I think when the Giants cut him or traded him, he went to the Seahawks, and I think he was still on their roster. I'm pretty sure he was still on their roster because after that he said that his quote was that he was gonna take a break from football so that he could like focus or address this situation. So technically he was still playing. Um, you know, so you got like a cavalcade of issues like where it relates to race, women's abuse, um, and this is probably the worst case of somebody putting their hands on a woman in the NFL who's their significant other. In addition to the fact that she's black, he's white, he wants this black woman to bow down to him. He chokes her out twice. There's proof of him doing like the beating, as far as pictures of the aftermath. He didn't deny it. Um, but why didn't that get coverage? Meanwhile, Ray Rice and his lady got into this thing in the elevator. Yeah, sure, there's video proof of that, and I'm not rationalizing it or saying that that's right, but Ray Rice was never able to play again, um, and I'm pretty sure Wheeler won't ever be able to play after this either. But the coverage that Ray Rice got was above and beyond, and granted, I mean, do am I sympathetic of Ray Rice? Absolutely not. Like, I think he deserved everything he got, and I'm happy that he's not playing. But this was like a prime Ray Rice. He was a leading rusher in the league at that point, and he was never able to play again, deservedly so. But that story got coverage for the better part of a year. I mean, it was the biggest story in sports when it happened for like almost a month. Meanwhile, Chad Wheeler almost killed a broad twice. Has there's proof of like the beating he gave her, and this is not no like regular like looking like there was like caked up blood like in with like the picture of his girlfriend. There's also a race factor there in a white guy doing this, and when I say Chad Wheeler's a lineman, he's a big guy. I mean, he got to be at least 6'5", 6'6", probably like 260 pounds, if not more. Doing this to a female and it has no coverage. So in the midst of like all this liberal like gunslinging and like canceling and whatnot, how does these how do these stories get like by the goalpost or by the goalie, if you will, um, without some picking and choosing? Because right now, like I mean, like the people like in my like the media by and large, and I mean I am gonna get political in this, is by and large very liberal. So I mean it's more of a liberal standpoint as far as the whole cancel culture and there's their newfound affinity for the black cause, which I think is a load of BS. As far as these liberals all of a sudden finding like God and making it seem like they care about black causes. Meanwhile, these same people who call the cops on you for hanging out in their stoop in New York, you know, knowing like what cops are gonna do, like if you're a black cat and you get the cops called on you. But you know, how is it that a very very liberal media lets a story like Chad Wheeler and or Woody Allen, Chad Wheeler as a recent case, and Chad Wheeler's story has every component of what the liberal media tries to hype up like nowadays, as far as making it seem like they're um, all about the black like causes and whatnot. And Woody Allen's case, I mean, is not recent, but it was one of the most vile like cases of any celebrity, save for Africa Bambaataa abusing children. But probably the most vile case of any celebrity that I know in the child of abusing and marrying the child, the adopted child, somebody you helped raise, of your wife. Like how is it that I mean, like, per se in Woody Allen's case, like I mean, like if that vigor, um, or if it would have kept being brought up, the fact that hey, like this guy shouldn't work in Hollywood because he's still married to this lady or girl, um, it would have been really tough for him to continue his career in Hollywood with that kind of pressure. But the media didn't cover it. I mean, and I don't want to hear no bullshit about him, the media having this come to God moment or this realization that we're within the Me Too cancel culture now in the 2020s, and that's the reason why Woody Allen is getting some get back now. That's bullshit, because Woody Allen is only getting this documentary made about him because Woody Allen's career is probably essentially, for all intents and purposes, finished. Or if it is finished, or if he did have a movie that he wanted to make, um, and he can't make it because of this documentary, no sweat off his ass because he's rich. You know, um, but also too in the case of this Chad Wheeler dude, like I mean, like it's this same media, they're very quick, like, to the same liberal media, like when it comes to like black celebrities or black athletes, they very vaguely or in a very tactical way like have a standard in which they shit on black athletes, but they make it seem like they're for like black causes. So I think people bypass them. I don't know. I mean, and I don't want to say that that's like the crux. I mean, the reason as to how they get by with these things. It's the fact that everybody should unplug from major media in general. Don't let them bring you their stories because I'm a victim of that too. Like in the sense that like I didn't really do my due diligence when it comes to that whole Woody Allen thing. Maybe I should have read into took half hour to read into it on my own and find out, you know, what that story was all about. I mean, it's not my job to do that, but the thing is that maybe the fact that for decades, um, you're kind of like given the story of, or like not even the story. You're kind of given the impression that, like that Woody Allen thing. Since we're not covering it, it maybe not that big of a deal, if you will. Um, so you tend to like not make it a big deal. You know, same thing with this Chad Wheeler guy. I mean, like the fact that he's not a megastar. Yeah, that's not like it may have um not gotten extremely big coverage because of that. But Richie Incognito um, basically bullied another player on his own team. It didn't even get physical from what it seems like. And Richie Incognito's a dick. Like I mean, like I'm not here covering for Richie Incognito, but the fact that Richie Incognito and Richie Incognito at the end of the day still got to play after serving a year suspension. I mean, he got signed by the Buffalo Bills for big money too. I think he got like a $5 million contract. He was a pivotal part of that team for like I think 2 years after his whole scandal, like where he got in trouble for verbally abusing his own teammate. His own teammate's a big guy though. He should have decked him. Should have rocked him. But here that Chad Wheeler almost kills a black woman and it gets no coverage. I mean, that just shows you. I mean, like, you know, what these people tell you to get pissed off about, or the fact that people think that they have the wherewithal, and that's always been my problem with anything to do with anything liberal, because especially when it gets tied into the fact that I'm a Latin dude. They give you the impression that we'll tell you like what you should get like pumped up about and what you should get pissed off about, and that kind of attitude to me is like racist. Like the fact that these people that like are weak, you know, from raised in comfort, like white guys are telling me a Spanish guy who didn't have a pot to piss in, like growing up, grew up in Section 8, poor, dropped out in the ninth grade, and then you're telling me like what to think or telling my people what to think. And the bad thing is that my people usually fall for it. My black people and Spanish people are the first ones to go following the directive of you know the liberal media and the liberal politicians, and you know and it's extremely frustrating. I didn't really have, and that doesn't mean that I think that everything that comes out of the Republican or Conservative Party, because I'm not a Republican, is good. Like they're pieces of crap too. Like I mean, I think this is more of a critique on, really like unplugged from the TV. The TV is the idiot box. They're giving you a standard of what it is that you should be looking at and what it is that you should be paying attention to. Right now, like the economy is in pure shit. Um, People don't cover like what the byproduct of massive money printing or bombing in Syria, or or you know, pandemic related issues, like, what like they basically tell you what parts of these issues to pay attention to, what to get pissed off at, who to get pissed off at, and it's not right. I mean, like, I hope, especially my people, wake up from the spell that's been put on us. Like, and I grew up around a lot of people that were basically preaching a lot of these things, like, in the '90s, and nobody paid attention to them because they happen to look like, me and my brothers, my black brothers. But now, these same liberal yuppies are giving you a very watered down version of the same issue, after, it already happened pretty much, like, and like now, like, my people, like, we got caught in that spell, and now we pay sort of attention to it, and like now they're telling us who to go after, and like who's in the clear. And in a sense, like, we're going after like the wrong people, you know or we're not paying attention to what we should be paying attention to. But let me know what you guys think. I mean, I know I'm went off a 31-minute video at this point, but I'm gonna cover this story a little bit more, hopefully. I mean, maybe I give one video to the Chad Wheeler thing. Um, Cover Roman Polanski too, another guy that got a big time pass for being a pedophile, basically. And maybe do a Chad Wheeler video on its own. Maybe I go live about it. Who knows? But let me know what you guys think. With that, I'm out. Peace.